Ladies and gentlemen, on this episode of the Sports Desk, I would like to begin by formally apologizing to Odell Beckham Jr., who is currently a free agent at the moment because he no longer has the greatest catch in NFL history. Thank you to Justin Jefferson for taking that title away.
Left hand up. Who are we?
The Sports Desk.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 92. Shout out to the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, rest in peace. Also, a urinating tree uploaded a video called Luckless the other day, so that's exciting. So what a time to be alive.
I think a lot of teams have that feeling right now of being luckless, I guess, just not having a whole lot of luck. But
that's a good point.
The NFL be like that. That's how it goes every year.
Speaking of the NFL, we have a task that Jack and I did last night. I was up until about 3 a.m. working on this. Jack, do you have the graphic?
I need to find the graphic, but I will pull it up. I know exactly what you're talking about. It hit me at like the last second. I was like, I figured we were going to bring this up. I should have had it ready, but I will have it ready in just a moment.
Okay. The cold open definitely should have been me explaining the Texans were better than the Eagles.
What an explanation that would have to be.
I did it for my mom earlier. It was okay. So the Texans beat the Jags. The Jags beat the Colts in week 2.
Here we go.
The Colts beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs beat the Chiefs beat the Chargers. The Chargers beat the Raiders. The Raiders beat the Broncos. The Broncos beat the 49ers. The 49ers beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks beat the Lions. The Lions beat the Communisms. And the Commanders, left hand up, beat the Eagles. So there we go. The wheel, the circle of parity, ladies and gentlemen. Feast your eyes.
There you go. Different order than what Splash said, but yeah, pretty much the same idea. The team, it's going clockwise, I think that is. So the team that's...
I forgot Kansas City beat Tennessee. then they that makes it much shorter because I tried to go Houston to Jacksonville to Indy to Kansas City to LA to San Francisco or to LA, then Vegas, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle, then Detroit, and I'm like all over the
bottom line. If you don't know how this works, basically you start at the top with Washington. They beat Philadelphia beat Minnesota beat New Orleans, and you just go counterclockwise, and that's just how it works any given Sunday or Monday, as they say, or Thursday in some cases.
Yes. Are there any of these results Thursday games?
That is a good question.
Doing a quick scan. Yeah, Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yep. Although the inverted result of Atlanta, Carolina happened on a Thursday night, so that's fun.
There's a couple splits in there too.
Yeah, I did make an adjusted one, but Jack had already made the graphics, so we decided to just roll with this one because it's still true. Like the Rams at one point did beat the Cardinals. Now the Rams suck, so and you can't defend yourself now.
I'm not trying to defend them either.
I can take all the tabs I wanted the Rams. What a time to be alive.
I suppose we'll mention that later on, assuming we talk about that game.
I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to. John Wolford and...
You know what I will talk about, though, was I was there at SoFi Stadium for the first time. That was a very fun experience. It's where I got this hat, so that's a plus.
Copium.
There was a lot of copium, but, I had a good time at the game, and I think that's kind of what matters, so...
How do you feel about what Billy says here? Jets Super Bowl, Zach Wilson MVP.
Zach Wilson MVP is a definite no.
I think one of those ships has sailed. Question: on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked would you be if the Jets won the Super Bowl this year?
I'd be a little stunned considering where they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Jets are obviously in a fantastic position, definitely miles ahead of where they were last year. The problem is, I think you and I both agree, Zach Wilson does not seem like the guy. And
yeah, I think that's true. I think Wilson has his warts, and I guess we're not going to talk about the Jets too much because they were on a bye. But the issue I think the Jets are going to run into is that they have to play really perfect football. Like they have to be on all their P's and Q's offensively, defensively, no dumb turnovers, no special teams errors. They're a good special teams unit. They have a very good defense, a top 3 defense by a lot of metrics, PFF, and stats themselves. But you can run into the issue of when you have a quarterback like Zach Wilson, how much do you trust him? And how much do you trust the rest of the offense with like a running game that no longer includes Breece Hall and a offensive line that Mekhi Becton didn't play at all this season. You have injury-prone guys all along the line that have been in and out of the lineup. And then no Elijah Vera Tucker, who had been playing at a Pro Bowl level this season. So I do think the Jets have a ceiling, and I think our description last week calling them a just boss hero fodder, like video game boss fodder, essentially. Like I think that's true that they are one of the teams that it's going to be stepping stone for a different AFC team.
We kind of mean that like the better teams like the Chiefs are probably not going to have too hard of a time with the Jets, but like if you sleep on the Jets during a game, they're probably going to figure out a way to beat you. They are capable of doing it if you slip up on them.
Yeah, if you play like Josh Allen a couple Sundays ago and just stink for 4 quarters, the Jets can beat you.
Like if you play like Josh Allen yesterday too, or last Sunday too.
Lord, yeah. But if you have a good game plan, you play well, you convert on 3rd down, you move the chains when you need to, and you force a turnover or 2, you can beat the Jets. We've seen the Ravens beat the Jets by 15, the Bengals beat the Jets also by 15. And the Patriots beat the Jets. And you can say, well, 2 of those games were with Flacco, and one of those games was like a John Franklin Myers roughing the passer penalty away. And you're right. You can argue that, but I don't think Zach Wilson at this point is closer to being the problem than being the solution to the problem. Like I'll take my shots at Josh Allen, but Josh Allen can win you a football game. I don't know if Zach Wilson can win a football game for you. He can lose. He can darn sure lose a football game for you, but I don't know if he can win a football game for you at this moment in time. That can change. That could 100% change. We've seen Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Geno Smith all take these massive leaps this year.
We've kind of seen it with Josh Allen himself too. Like
Josh Allen.
He wasn't what he was before 2020.
Right, exactly. And like you look at 2019 Josh Allen, the Bills won almost in spite of Josh Allen. He had 12 interceptions, some fumbles, some major issues, and then he'd pull it out at the end in some of these games, and he got really overrated after 2019. Then 2020, he has a historically great season, finishes 2nd in MVP voting. And then 2021, another productive regular season, then an all-time playoff run, of course.
For sure. I guess we can actually kind of transition that into the recap segment of the game. We can start by talking about the wild Jets, or not Jets, the
Definitely
Bills.
Not the Jets.
I don't know why Jets came to my mind. The Bills-Vikings game that went into overtime.
This
was so weird.
It was a bad game for like 3 quarters.
And then
maybe not bad, but it just felt underwhelming. Like you go into that, and despite Josh Allen having a UCL injury in his elbow, his throwing elbow, no less, the Bills are pretty heavy favorites, depending on the bookie you go for, between 5 and 6.5, maybe even 7-point favorites. Even with an injured Josh Allen, you think about that, and the Bills go out, take a 17-point lead. They're up 27-10. And they're about to drive down and score, and they're, about to tack on those extra points, and it's 4th and 2. Fourth and goal or fourth and 2 from deep into Minnesota territory, and the Bills decide, hey, we're going to go for it. We're the Buffalo Bills. We have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen throws an interception to Patrick Peterson, and at that point, the entire tide of the game shifts. The Vikings strike back. They get a big run. Or this was a different section of the game. They were down 10 at that point. So you have the Dalvin Cook long rushing touchdown at the end of the 3rd quarter. Allen throws a 4th quarter interception in the red zone. A 10-point game, and Minnesota has a shot. If you score, even if you kick a field goal, the game is probably over. That's the scary thing. So let me find the play section. So 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Bills lead by 10. 4th and 2 from the 7. Allen throws a pick. Okay. Big return. Vikings go the length of the field. CJ Ham scores, and there's 4:38 to go. It's a 4-point game because Minnesota misses the extra point. That's something I think people are going to forget, is that Minnesota missed the extra point to force them into a touchdown situation at the end of regulation. Then Buffalo punts. They do nothing. They go incomplete pass, false start, incomplete pass, have to punt. Minnesota drives 75 yards, half a yard short. Bills fumble the snap. Touchdown Vikings, 3-point lead.
That was such a weird play, too. They, fumbled it, from inside their own end zone, basically, or somewhere near their own end zone, and Minnesota got the loose ball.
Just a botched snap. Minnesota, floods the A gap, picks up the football, laying in the end zone, touchdown. I'm sure if Minnesota could replay it, I think they'd be okay with it, getting the ball on the 1 again, even though they did fail to score from the 1. They had 1st and goal from the 3, lost 3 yards, incomplete pass. Incomplete pass. What? Challenge the run. Oh, okay, that's a different play. Just total chaos ensues after they get down to the 3. Then they are short on a 4th and 1 play. Then Josh Allen fumbles, and then Josh Allen, carries them about 80 yards, 70 yards, kick a field goal, and Minnesota wins the coin toss in overtime and gets the ball. And there we have it.
So the result of all this is that Bills fans are complaining about another coin toss. No, I'm kidding.
It didn't even matter. They could have. They stopped him defensively.
Exactly. Playing defense in overtime, it helps. This is just another weak finish to a game for Josh Allen. That's kind of where I see this whole thing ending up. I didn't watch too many highlights because, again, I was at the stadium on Sunday, so I'm a little bit behind on some of these games, but I did see a couple plays, and it's just what are the Bills doing? It feels like they're not if there's any quarterback, I feel
Josh Allen, I'm going to pull up the exact number here, but
if there's any quarterback I feel like can bounce back from a slump like this, it is Josh Allen. But I mean, this is not MVP level performance that people are saying that he has.
Change the overtime rules. Oh, gotta love Billy.
They did.
Yeah,
for the playoffs. They did.
Just for the playoffs. But look, I am one of those people that says if you are saying that the overtime rules are unfair and it gives the team that gets the ball this unholy advantage, play defense. That's a facet of the game.
The AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals can vouch.
Yes. If you can't get a stop, don't go to overtime. The Bills last year, they had if you stop the Chiefs in 13 seconds, it doesn't matter who wins the coin toss because there is no coin toss, and that's one of the issues I think people run with nowadays is the coin toss. Just make a stop. It's not impossible to stop these teams. It's not impossible to stop them from kicking a field goal. Remember, for a long time, the rule was the first score. So you could have a situation like the 2009 NFC title game. The Saints win the toss, walk 40, 50 yards, kick a field goal. Minnesota doesn't touch the ball, and the Saints don't score a touchdown. And that was cool back then. Now it's obviously not cool. But you just sort of run into these issues, and they could stop defensively. The Bills had the number 1 scoring defense, number 1 total defense. They preach from the high heavens that they have the best defense in the NFL. They preach all offseason they're the best team outside of Josh Allen, the best roster. If you subtract quarterback, they have the best roster. If you add quarterback, they have the best roster. Okay, then you should not have lost this game. You should have put it away. Josh Allen should have put it away. Oh, he's injured. Okay, then why didn't the rest of your lineup show up? Why did your defense that was number 1, number 2?
Josh Allen's injured. Guess what? He's not even on the field anyway when you're on defense. So
precisely. Also, wild trivia question. Because
God.
I'm looking it up. Among quarterbacks with 100 pass attempts in the second half, guess who has the highest passer rating this season?
Among quarterbacks with pass attempts in the second half.
Quarterbacks with 100 pass attempts in the second half. I'm looking for one Josh Allen now, but that's why I asked. Also, Trey Lance, 33 passer rating in the second half. Not good.
That isn't great.
No.
Um,
Better than Leonard Fournette.
I got no clue.
That would be Tua Tagovailoa.
Why am I not surprised? I'm not surprised at that one for some reason. We had a Geno Smith guess from Billy.
Geno Smith is very close. He is a 100.1 passer rating. That would be fifth. So Tua 1, Mariota 2.
Oh my God.
Burrow 3, Mahomes
Mariota's
4.
a scrappy quarterback. I've always
Smith,
said
5.
he's like he's a guy that won't give up on games no matter how weird they look, no matter how bad they look.
Fair.
Mariota won't give up on games.
Josh Allen now has fewer second half passing touchdowns than one Lamar Jackson. But only Lamar Jackson gets bashed for his play in the second half. I don't know.
People love to hate on Lamar for some reason.
People, well, I can tell you the reason, but then we get taken off the air.
Let's not get taken off the air.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else you want to touch on with this game? Oh, I guess we should talk about the cold open. I still don't know how Justin Jefferson hauled that ball in.
Yes.
I don't.
So basically, if you guys have not seen it yet, that was kind of like the Odell Beckham catch. He wasn't leaning back. The thing that made Odell's catch so impressive is that he did it through pass interference with 2 fingers, and it's still a hell of a catch. Don't get me
Ravens
wrong.
legend Brandon Carr, by the way.
But what happened on this play was Jefferson was jumping up to try to get the ball. I think it was double coverage. I'm not 100% sure. The defender.
It was a really good throw by Cousins. He gave his guy a shot. I think it was like layered. The defender in front of Jefferson and a defender.
Either way, one of the defenders. Yeah, one of the defenders got the ball. He had 2 hands on the ball.
It was
and
like
Jefferson,
the Hail Murray.
with one hand, rips it out, says, "That's mine." Unbelievable. Like, that's honestly best catch of all time. I'm
Context
sorry,
for this play.
Odell.
It's 4th and 18 in a maybe not a must-win game. It's the middle of November, but it's a 4th and 18, down 4, under 2 minutes to go. As do or die of a situation as you can have in the regular season between a 6-2 Bills team, a 7-1 Vikings team. You make the play, you have a chance at winning the game. The one knock on the Odell play, 1, the Giants lost the game. 2, it's the first play of the second quarter. There's no like stakes to it. That's what makes when you have the conversation of what's the best catch ever. When you take context out and it's just like, okay, football. You watch one highlight. What is the best highlight? Okay, Odell has an argument. George Pickens had a crazy catch. There's some this year. There's a variety of examples.
I do think it is important to add the context, though, like you said.
Yeah,
because
but
obviously Odell's catch happened middle of the game. This catch happened like you said 4th and 18.
Yeah, 4th and 18.
Like
2 minutes left. This is do or die for the Vikings. If they do not convert, they lose the game. Point blank. Point blank.
And then Jefferson does that.
Yeah. Although I will say, I got a stat for you. You're not going to like me after I say this, but for 31 years, from 1991 to 2021, there were exactly 0 teams that won a football game, won an NFL game, after trailing with under 2 minutes to go, and they have a turnover on downs in the red zone. Exactly 0 teams won in that situation for 31 years. It has happened back-to-back weeks. One of them featured your Rams, and the next one features Josh Allen.
But guess who the quarterback was?
It was Tom Brady. Tom Brady's bizarre, man.
It's ridiculous. I blame that loss on our offense for not producing enough, but that's besides the point.
That's a good, that's the Jalen Ramsey point there. Defending Raheem Morris.
People were criticizing Raheem Morris, and I mean, the defense should have played better in that situation, but the offense should have played better in that situation.
Yeah, they allowed 6 points. Do you see the Broncos stat that if they had scored 18 points in regulation, they'd be 8-1?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
With Russell Wilson as their quarterback, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. They're averaging 14.6 points per game. That's a bottom 3 figure since 2010. That's like rivaling that one year the Rams went 1-15 for like horrendous offense. And this is an offense with Cortland Sutton, with good offensive linemen, with talented running backs without Javonte Williams. I get that, but Melvin Gordon's not a bum. Then Russell Wilson, a former Pro Bowl quarterback, a guy that ironically has never gotten an MVP vote, but was a second team All Pro quarterback just 3 years ago, and a very good quarterback in 2020, and a Pro Bowler last year on a technicality. But just what a weird. Judy's played the entire year. He did get hurt in the last game. Sutton's played the entire year. You have Dulcich, the tight end, who's nice. Alberto is nice. Like, there's just so many pieces, and it all has failed.
It happens, man. I don't really know. Like, there's no. We'd have to take like a deep dive into the Broncos at one point to figure out like what actually is like fundamentally wrong with the team. It could be like some off the field stuff too. I don't know too much about that, obviously.
That's true. That's true. Although, hey, they're not the biggest dumpster fire in their division.
No, they're not.
But we'll save the Raiders for later.
Okay, should we address the title?
Yeah, I think we should.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Who are we? The undefeated Killers. That would be the Washington Commanders. They have now dethroned the last two teams to reach 8-0. In 2020, they dethroned the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers.
What a weird year that was for Pittsburgh. Like, you're 11-0, but like no one thinks you're legit. And then the 1 week they lose, it all goes crashing down.
They finished with the same. They started 11-0. They finished with the same number of wins as Baltimore and Cleveland. Cleveland beat them in the playoffs too. They all finished with 12
Cleveland
wins.
Destroyed them in the play. It was like 28-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah, 28-0 in the first quarter. And then
anyway,
Pittsburgh claw us back. Ben throws it 66 times, 4 touchdowns, or I think it ended up being like 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Like,
that's such a
66 pass attempts. Almost as many as Justin Herbert had the other day.
So from this Washington-Philadelphia game, I think the key thing we need to talk about here is turnovers, because the Eagles have had, I think it was either 3 or 4 all season long.
Yep. 3 turnovers, no lost fumbles the entire season. Well, I don't remember if Hurts lost one, but they had 0 turnovers outside of Jalen Hurts, and Hurts had 3 turnovers. Let me
find the stat really quick.
And you go in, you play Washington. This is at home, at the Link, Monday Night Football. If there's I know divisional games can be trap games, but this is one that you beat them earlier in the season in Washington, in Landover, and you're just thinking, okay, the Eagles are going to coast to a win here. And are you hitting the panic button at all on Philly? Is this a red flag loss,
or
is it just a given that you're going to lose a game? Are you what side are you on?
It's tough to say. So it was 4 turnovers. The Eagles haven't had. I think they've only had like 3 or 4 all season long before this game.
Entire season. So they
had 4 in this game.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'm hitting the panic button on Philadelphia just yet. Obviously, they are still kind of crazy talented. I love watching Jalen Hurts. I think that a lot of their pieces are really solid. It's just a matter of protecting the football better, and I think that's been an issue for some teams that have. It was a consistent issue for the Rams last year. They had situations where they couldn't protect the football as well as they probably should have been. It's a fixable thing, though. I feel like with the talent that Philadelphia has, if they take some time to just reassert things, they can fix the turnover problem.
Yeah, I think that was... Now, the fumbles are just weird because... so the 4 turnovers, you had a Hurts interception on a ball that... the Eagles should have caught. That's a ball that Hurts puts it in a great spot for his guy to grab it, and Derek Forrest says, "LOL, I'm an All-Pro talent this year." For some reason, Derek Forrest is the best safety in the NFL. What world do we live in? But great throw by Hurts, and then I think Quez Watkins just gets bodied.
I didn't see it, but I did hear that there was some ref controversy too. There was like a weird face mask play or something.
Yes, that's another turnover. Dallas Goedert catches the ball. It's like a tight end screen. Face mask, fumbles, Goddard's out for the next couple weeks. So you have a triple whammy there that not only do you lose the ball there, and you don't get the benefit of the personal foul penalty, but Goddard's also hurt now. So disaster there. There was a play And the third turnover was a deep ball to Quez Watkins that Watkins catches this time, falls down, stands back up, and Benjamin St. Just, who's had a really solid year for Washington, punches the ball free. And Derek Forrest, like I said, for some reason he's an All-Pro, picks up the fumble, and that's 3 turnovers. And then the last one, Devontae Smith pitches it back, and a commander steps in the way. This is the last play of the game, like the hook and ladder play down the field, right? Devontae Smith pitches it, commanders poke it away, like knock it out of the air, and they recover 31. They win 32-21, which really hurt. There was a guy had a $1,000 parlay, crazy parlay, bunch of different legs, and he loses it because he picked under 52.5.
Oh, no.
That play puts it at 53.
Pain. I can see the pain on your face.
I could not imagine. I could not imagine losing a game like that or losing a bet brutal. Like that.
That would be absolutely brutal. One thing I want to touch on before we move on is with Washington is that Taylor Heineke kind of has things going in the right direction right now. I'm not going to call him like the best guy ever, but like I voiced on this show, like you can go back to like the U Stadium episodes, I voiced before my concerns with Carson Wentz. I don't like Carson Wentz. Right. And ever since he's been hurt, they've had to use Taylor Heineke. And Taylor Heineke, they've won like their last 4 games after starting 1-4.
He has a winning record as an NFL quarterback.
I mean, like, don't sleep on this guy.
It's one of those situations with Heineke, I think, that it's very Tim Tebow-y. With all due respect to Tim Tebow, with all due respect to Taylor Heineke, it's very much a case of you're going to get probably 3/4 of crap from Taylor Heineke. He's going to make the occasional throw. He had a dime, whatever terminology you want to use. Perfect throw to McLaurin down the right hash. Beats perfect coverage. Darius Slay is like perfect coverage. Just drops it in the bucket. Great play by McLaurin. Great play by everyone. And you'll get occasional. You'll get the special plays. And you saw the diving touchdown against Tampa in the playoffs. And he has these drives. He has these moments. And I feel like sometimes there's no one as clutch as Taylor Heineke. And he had the play at the end of regulation, the last, what should have been the last offensive play for Washington. 3rd and 7. The Eagles have one more timeout. The Commanders are trying to throw the ball and get the first down to ice the rest of the clock. And Heineke looks around, doesn't see anything, starts to run around, doesn't see anything. And instead of throwing the ball away or taking a sack and risking a fumble, he just kneels it. And I don't want to say he baits Brandon Graham and co, but Brandon Graham comes smashing into him, and it's like, that's a tough way to lose a game if you're Philadelphia, but Taylor Heineke heads up play to say, hey, I am not going to risk a fumble. I'm going to give my team a chance if Brandon Graham's an idiot. And if Brandon Graham's not an idiot, you're punting the ball away and the Eagles have no timeouts and they have to go the length of the field in, 50 seconds, 60 seconds. But, credit where credit's due. Heineke makes winning plays. It's one of those just strange things on that same rating, pass rating in the second half. He has a 94 pass rating, which is better than Kyler Murray and better than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
You know who the real winner in all of this is, though? I'm gonna pull out the
1972 Miami Dolphins.
Yes, I'm gonna use the helmet for this one. The 1972 Miami Dolphins. They remain the only undefeated team in league history. They're popping champagne as we
boys.
Speak. Yeah, there you go. All right, one more game that we want to touch on, and then we'll move on to some rando ones. We've got the Green Bay Packers finally getting back in the win column with a win over the Dallas Cowboys. I think that was an overtime game.
Yes, 31-28. The Packers get the win. This was a weird one. So in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, regular season and playoffs, this was the first time they entered the fourth quarter with a 2-touchdown lead and lost the game. The Cowboys have been around since 1960.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and like
they've
teams,
only just now
like teams like just you can casually do that. Like that's not a you can like okay, let me give you a hypothetical that a team is not really blowing a lead. It just happens this way. So team's up by 14, but your opponent has the ball. Opponent scores early in the fourth quarter, punt, your opponent scores again. That's a 14-0 run in the quarter, and you had one drive. So I don't think that's really blowing a lead. You just had one unproductive drive, right? So there is some context needed there, that there can be some cheap 14-point comebacks or 10-point comebacks or whatever. But this was not a cheap one. This was a hard-earned one. Christian Watson, a breakout star. 4 catches, 3 of them go for touchdowns, over 100 yards. A Randy Moss-esque performance. Moss, of course, had 3 for 163 and 3 touchdowns on Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys in 1998. But this is a game that Christian Watson is one of 10 players ever to do 100 yards, 3 touchdowns in one of his first 10 NFL games. Do you know a particular former Ram that did so? He didn't do it with the Rams, but he did it. Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, Isaac Bruce.
Oh, no. He didn't do it with the Rams, but he did win a Super Bowl with the Rams.
I know, but he didn't just play for the Rams, so that's what I was thinking. I don't know.
Niners legend. We talked about him earlier in the show. He has a famous one-handed catch.
OBJ.
Yeah.
There you go.
Beckham.
There we go. Slowly clicked in my brain. There we go.
Yep. Odell Beckham has one of them. Also, the Willie Gault, the number 1 receiver on the 85 Bears, did so when he was a rookie. And Chase Claypool did it 2 years ago. And Calvin Ridley, Jaguars legend Calvin Ridley, did it in 2018. So a weird group of guys. A lot of them are Pro Bowlers. One of them is a Packer, or one of them is an NFL Hall of Famer, James Lofton, also a Packers legend in his own right. So congratulations, Christian Watson. You have accepted the Aaron Rodgers treatment into your life. And I'm going to look at the Green Bay schedule, because this is, I'm not going to say they're toast. They have like a 16% chance to make the playoffs, thereabouts. But they're 4-6. They play the Lions again. They play the Bears again. They play the Vikings again. I don't think they're going to win the division. That is probably gone, but I'm going to read through their schedule.
Go ahead.
Titans at home. At Philadelphia. That's probably a loss. At Chicago. Bye week. Rams at Miami. Minnesota, Detroit. There is a chance, to me, they beat Tennessee at home. I think that's a winnable game. I think they can beat the Bears. I think they can beat the Rams. The Vikings might be resting people at this point, or might not be all in to beat the Packers, although I guess there's a bit of like a...
I think you have to wait for context there. Like, if you just have to see, like, if the Vikings are, like, actually in contention to get a pretty high seed. But if they're going to win the division and they're not going to be the 1 seed, then, yeah, you should probably rest starters.
Okay. Do you think the Packers can win 5 of their last 7 games? Titans, Eagles, Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, Lions.
I think they can beat the Lions. I think that was just such a weird game last time, but I think they can beat the
I agree.
Lions.
That's one if you win. You don't have. They would be 5-5 if you beat the Lions, or you don't lose to the Commanders, or you don't blow a 20-point lead to the Giants. Like, there's,
as painful as it is to say, I'm not really giving the Rams much of a chance.
It is,
especially with Cup out too. Like, that's a brutal loss, and they're playing in the cold
Cup
weather.
Could be back for that game. Cup could be back for that game.
Oh, we could.
Yeah, that's
regardless though. I mean,
weeks.
I don't have too much faith in that one.
That's fair. Will
Titans,
9 wins be enough to make the playoffs? I think
know.
If they lose to Tennessee, I think the season's over. At that point, you're just digging kind of hole. You're digging so much of a hole for yourself. Minnesota is would clinch the division. Could clinch the division on Thanksgiving, because they play New England.
Man, we're already in division clinching territory right now. This season.
Well, that's just because the Packers suck and the Vikings are 8-1. Like, that's just math at that point. But
it is, but it's still kind of wild that it's happening so early.
So I think Green Bay, if they beat Tennessee, I think they can make a solid push at the playoffs. Philadelphia is going to be tough to beat. Miami is going to be tough to beat. That's a Christmas Day game in Miami. I don't want to doubt Aaron Rodgers. There's a chance you beat either or, maybe both, honestly. But there's a chance you win those games. But I'm certainly not betting on those. I think they can beat they should beat the Bears. They should beat the Rams. They should beat the Vikings at home, and they should beat the Lions. But this is also a team that's very banged up. They lose Eric Stokes for the year. They lose Rashawn Gary for the year. Devondre Campbell. They're all pro linebackers dealing with injuries. Their rookie first-round pick linebacker, Quay Walker, has issues being good at football. Devontae Wyatt was hurt or was banged up in the last game. But if Aaron Rodgers, it's Aaron Rodgers. They could go 7-0 or 6-1 or 5-2, and I have a feeling 9-8 or 10-7 would be good enough to make the playoffs. Now, if you lose to Tennessee and you just the math gets really hard, you'd have to basically win out.
Yeah. This is my favorite and least favorite time of the NFL season because there's so much math involved. It is.
I love the math with it. I will look at their.
I will just defer all the math to you. I think you can be the math guy.
Sounds good to me.
I will just in the meantime be the guy who picks helmets out of a bucket. Which is pretty much what we're gonna do to talk about like a couple more games. I have a bunch of these like. Let me show off a few. We have like a couple of like these mini helmets.
Jack.
What?
I can do choose your own results on 538.
Oh, you can.
It updates playoff odds now. Okay, so right now, the Packers sit at a 12% chance to make the playoffs, according to 538, and a 0.6% chance to win the division. If they beat Tennessee, it goes up to 17, 18, 19%. If they lose to Tennessee, they're around 5%. But let's say they beat Tennessee, because I think that's a very winnable game. At home, short week, etc. Then beat Chicago. At this point, the Vikings have essentially a 99% chance to win the division. But okay, look, I'm gonna put them at 9-8. 9-8. So they beat the Titans, they lose to the Eagles, they beat the Bears. Bye week, they beat the Rams. Then they lose to Miami in Miami. They beat Minnesota. They beat Detroit. At this point, the Vikings would just have to win one of their last 7 games to clinch the division.
Okay.
Well, essentially.
Yeah, I don't.
If the Packers can get to 9-8, they have a 44% chance of making the playoffs.
Those
obviously
aren't the worst
depends on
odds.
Yeah, obviously depends on who they lose to, but you're sitting with a Giants team that has to play Minnesota, Philadelphia. Cowboys have to play at Tennessee. They get another shot they get another game against Dallas, or they get another game against Philly. The Commanders, the 49ers don't have they have a pretty easy schedule. The Seahawks play the Chiefs on the road. They play the Jets. Like, those are losable games. And then all of a sudden the math starts mathing, and maybe Aaron Rodgers and co can make the playoffs here. Like, Seahawks, let's say you lose to the Rams because divisional, they are owned by San Francisco apparently, then the Packers odds are shooting up over 70%. So I don't know. I may have talked myself into a path for the Packers to make the playoffs.
You know what? There's only one way to find out. So we look forward to seeing whether that comes true. Now comes the part where I can pull my mini helmets out of the bucket, and
That's a very small bucket. Although,
it is a small bucket, but
Taylor Heineke could have hit that with a football.
He probably could have. All right, I'm looking away. We're gonna pick a helmet. If they had a bye week, then we're just gonna move on. And we have. I'm gonna pull out this one team from the bottom. We have. Did the Bucks have a bye week?
No, they defeated the Seattle Seahawks in Munich.
Yeah, they did. That was the Germany game too. That was a
Country
weird one too.
road, take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia. I don't know any other words. I should be I should lose my card as a Southerner because I don't know the words to that song.
Your Southerner card privileges have been revoked. They beat the Seahawks in Germany. The crowd was electric because they were all singing.
That was an atmosphere.
That's quite the atmosphere for your first game in Germany.
This was the best game from a comedy standpoint I've seen in about 2 years. So, Jack, do you remember the Ravens-Browns Monday night game, like Lamar Jackson LaPoo game?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. That game is going to probably be the number one for a long time because one, my team was involved, and two, Lamar Jackson had to take a poo. That's just like peak hilarious. But let me paint you a picture. Close your eyes. Let me paint you a picture.
Okay.
I want you to imagine a spectrum. You go from 0 to 100. On one end, you have the least athlete you can imagine. On the other end, you have the most athlete you can imagine. I don't know, in the scope of NFL players, if you can go further apart than Tom Brady and Tariq Woolen. And on a play,
oh my God,
in the second half, the Bucks, the prelude to this play, the Bucks ran a wildcat play. It was a halfback power with Leonard Fournette, and it gained a couple yards. And Tom Brady was in gobs of space. I'm talking about gobs. He could have made a new country and it'd be larger than the Vatican. Just tons and tons of space. And I saw that. I even saw that on the broadcast angle. This isn't like an all 22 way after the fact. I saw that on the broadcast angle. Brady is wide open. Maybe the Bucks are going to try to throw it to him. A couple plays later, they do the same wildcat thing. This time, Tariq Woolen is in like the realm of Tom Brady. And they run the same play, and Fournette like takes a step and he throws it. He throws it to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is 45 years old. Tom Brady is closer to being.
I thought we've learned by now that throwing the ball to Tom Brady doesn't work.
He's been close. He's close to 90 years old as he is to being 0. Let that sink in. When he was born in the 1970s. And he's getting targeted in 2022. The best part about this is he like trips over Woolen. Tariq Woolen, if you ever happen to watch this show, if you ever happen to see me, I will be more than happy to purchase a full wall in your house, just painted with that, or a picture of it, whatever you want. Just a mural of your greatness, of picking off the GOAT, essentially. Just what a bizarre play.
It's one thing to intercept a throw by Tom Brady. It's another thing entirely to intercept a throw to Tom Brady.
Yeah. Intended receiver Tom Brady. If you're following along on the phone and it's Leonard Fournette passes to Tom Brady, intercepted, it's like, what?
It's one of those things that makes you do a double take.
Yeah, and then Brady threw a pretty bad interception. It reminded me of Jared Goff playing football.
Oh God.
Just no awareness for the linebacker lurking underneath. Look, I do it in Madden. Jimmy Garoppolo does it. Just a bad interception over the middle. Cody Barton, who's a heck of a player, but then you have the country road at the end, and there was one more comedy bit that I forget, but what was it? Shoot, you didn't watch the game because it was at 6:30 in the morning. Gino had a pretty bad fumble. I don't think that's warrants a comedy bit, but that game was very good, very, very good for the German crowd. There were like 18 missed kicks.
It's good when you get a game like that for the German crowd too, because like it helps expand the NFL's outreach. So I think it's a good thing for even if it is a comedic game, it's still good to have like some kind of zaniness to it.
Yeah, that game was a lot of fun. That was a really well played game. I hope there's a rematch in the playoffs. I think Seattle is. I know we're in this like honeymoon phase, I guess, with Geno Smith that he can kind of do no wrong, but I think Geno Smith is legit like good now, like a top 10 potential quarterback now.
He still has not written back.
Yeah, he still has not written back.
Okay. I'm gonna draw the next helmet.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Seahawks are legit good. I think they're kind of falling with the Jets territory of maybe not quite Super Bowl good, but like this is a generational draft class as of right now. It is November 15th, 2022. If Charles Cross like becomes into a potato tomorrow, don't blame me, please. But you got bookend left tackle, bookend right tackle, a Pro Bowl caliber running back, a stud corner, Tariq Woolen, another stud corner in Kobe Bryant. This is a masterclass for John Schneider. And you get all the Russell Wilson trade capital. You bring in a Noah Fant, okay, whatever. You bring in a Drew Lock, okay, whatever. You bring in Shelby Harris, very good football player. And then you have perhaps the most underrated signing of the offseason, getting Uchenna Nwosu from the Los Angeles Chargers. And Nwosu made my Pro Bowl roster. Like, what are we? John Schneider picked up not one, but 2 Pro Bowlers this offseason. One through free agency, one through the draft.
Insanity.
And Kenneth Walker, I could see with no Rashad Penny the rest of the way. I could see him jumping a Dalvin Cook or an Aaron Jones, getting a couple big rushing touchdowns and having a game against the Rams, for example, that he runs for like 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. And all of a sudden he's like back in, like statistically is in that conversation. I only say the Rams because I know they play the Rams as opposed to any other team. I guess they play Carolina, but Carolina can kind of stop the run. Either way, next team.
You're going to laugh.
Is it Baltimore?
It's Arizona.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord. This was
okay.
Okay, let me talk because I was there.
Yeah.
This was bad because Battle of the Backups. We had our second in 3 years because if you remember all the way back in 2020, Jared Goff got hurt. John Wolford had to come in. Kyler Murray got hurt after the first series. Chris Streveler, Jets legend Chris Streveler had to come in. Now it was John Wolford on the Rams versus Colt McCoy on the Cardinals. I'm going to jump to a point in the game where it was actually winnable for the Rams because Darrell Henderson scored a touchdown to make it 17-10 in favor of Arizona. The Rams defense was getting positive momentum. They were getting negative plays, sacks, whatever you name it. They had forced Arizona. It was a 1 touchdown game. I think it was at some point in the third quarter. They had Arizona stopped. Maybe it was the fourth quarter, I don't remember. But they had Arizona back 3rd down and 17. And then my favorite cornerback, David Long, gets burned. And they allow like 15 or so yards to go from 3rd down and 17 into 4th and manageable deep in the Rams territory. They convert the 4th down, and then Long gets burned again for a touchdown. Like, what are we doing here? It's just like last week it was clear to blame it on the offense. This week we kind of knew the offense was going to be bad because Stafford was out. And then Kupp got hurt in the middle of this game too, which sucks. He's going to be out for a few weeks. It's just, there are so many flaws with this team right now. And it's hard to really point to a singular reason why. I feel like if they do end up finishing last in the division, which I think they're last in the division right now.
Yes, they are.
Who the hell knows what's going to happen? It's going to help us for next year more than anything because we'll have a last place schedule. But
that's true. But to be fair, that last place schedule might draw, well, the Commanders, the Panthers with some draft capital, and the plucky, I'll say, Lions or Bears.
The really plucky Lions. I remember when the Lions played us last year. I knew if there was any game they were going to throw the kitchen sink at, it would be that one. But
like 3 fake punts.
They did. They fake punted like 3 times. They got a touchdown. They had a fake kickoff, or they had an onside kick, and then the Rams stopped them. They were going to go 3 and out, and then they fake punted and got the ball back. So
this is a valid point. Okay,
yeah,
I'll give my thoughts if you're interested.
We suck. Those are like 90% of your thoughts.
No, I think you were on my Splash Rants episode that we talked about the Rams, right? We talked about the Rams for like an hour. And the difference between that episode and now, the roster is very similar. The issue has been the injuries along the offensive line. And
absolutely
there's no continuity. There's I believe you guys have started a different unit every single week.
We have. You want to hear some more? Right guard Chandler Brewer, MCL injury, out 4 to 6 weeks. Left tackle Alaric Jackson has blood clots. He's out for the season.
Oh, okay. First off, speedy recovery to Alaric Jackson there. Blood clots are no small deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Oh, I don't know personally, but I do know like that's a big deal.
So you that's tough. Man, you like the Rams outside of the offensive line, and you can just go on you can go on Pro Football Reference and you can just see the Alaric Jackson is doubtful, Brian Allen is questionable. Like you just have all these guys are in and out, 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 right? And you don't get any sort of continuity. And if there's anything we know the Rams for, it's they need a solid offensive line for the McVay offense to work. McVay is a wizard, is a unbelievable offensive mind, but you're trying to take liberties with that. And
what he does, I think, banks on the offensive line being healthy and consistent.
It also banks on having a remotely competent rushing attack, which the Rams have the worst rushing off. Well, if you by yards and attempts, they have the worst rushing offense in the NFL. They're averaging about 20 carries a game. They're averaging 3.2 yards per carry there as well.
I'm going to say too, this is like another issue with their run game right now. They for whatever reason, they are not paying any attention to the kind of momentum. Whenever they get any good momentum from any of their running, like Cam Akers actually had a really decent run, and like the Rams run game was actually in a groove during one of their drives. And then Sean McVay's like, what would be fun is if we started passing while our run game has momentum. And it's like, I understand like you want to kind of mix it up on the other team's defense every once in a while, but when you have momentum, you got to ride that momentum. Yeah, you can't just abandon the run once they start running well, which they're doing like every week.
It's certainly fair. Yeah, this is fair. And there's games that the Rams dig themselves a hole and they're in bad game script. They lose by 2 scores to Dallas. They ran for 38 yards in that game. I'm just going to list off some of these rushing totals. You can take a guess at which ones they won. 52, 65, 100, 57, 38, 111, 56, 68, 66.
At some point, I think if you're the Rams, if you want to solve this issue, you need to ditch the running back by committee approach.
And Darrell Henderson's had a pulse this season. He's averaging 4 yards carry. Not anything special, but like you at least can get something out of him. And I don't think Matthew Stafford is without blame. He's been quite poor. I'm not like, even if you like extend that into the last half of last season, there were a lot of times that it was a team carrying Stafford, and this year Stafford has 8 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. I know you can nitpick with touchdowns and interception and the ratio, but a sub 85 passer rating when you are completing 68.4% of your throws is not good.
Yeah, it's just like, I think some of that does fall on the O-line, but there are some plays where it's just like you really have to make a better throw, you have to make a better decision, and it's just like,
yeah, I agree. The defensive talent is there, and even it's shown itself. This is a top 5 run defense, in a top half of the league pass defense, a team that is in the top half of the league in yards allowed per drive and points allowed per drive. Now, the issue is they get in these games that the offense sucks, right? They're 29th in scoring, 31st in total offense. So the defense gets worn out. And in these third, fourth quarters, they can't compete with Buffalo. They can't compete with San Francisco either time, right? They can't compete with Arizona, even with Colt McCoy. So you end up 18th in scoring defense, but you're 6th in total defense. There's just been, you're not forcing turnovers. The offensive line's been a mess. There's been no rushing attack. Like, we can talk about other teams that can't run, they quote unquote can't run the ball. The Rams try to run the ball and they can't run the ball.
Exactly. And it's like I said, you need to ditch the running back by committee approach. Either you either need to I want to see a bigger sample size out of Kyren Williams. I think we've seen enough out of Cam Akers. We've seen enough out of like whoever the hell their third running back has been all year. Sometimes it's been Malcolm Brown. Sometimes it's been Ronnie Rivers. Kyron Williams.
I'm just like looking 2.4 yards a carry, 2.3 yards a carry, vomit upon vomit upon vomit.
Kyron Williams, he played last week. The sample size wasn't big enough. I don't think
Had
it was
one
big
carry
enough.
for 9 yards, 3 catches for 30 yards. I'm not a
Like,
Kyron Williams guy. I think he's too slow, but look, I've been wrong before in my draft takes, so have at it.
Yeah, I'm just saying he wasn't used enough.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
I will say, if there's a positive that I'm going to take away from this game, Van Jefferson caught a touchdown. He's said after the game that his confidence is way up after doing that, because he's like, yes, I still can catch touchdowns after the injury, which is a good sign. So he's probably going to be a lot more needed because Cooper Kupp's going to miss at least 4 weeks. I don't think the Rams are going to sign OBJ. I really want them to still make a run at him, but I don't think they're going to sign OBJ.
I don't think OBJ. If you're the Rams, if you're either party, honestly, does it make sense? Like, if you're OBJ and you want win another ring,
I think the only way it makes sense career-wise is if you think about long-term. Obviously, they're probably not going to be contending for a ring this year. You have to think about it. You have to, if you're the Rams front office, you basically at this point have to convince OBJ that, like, long-term, with maybe not this year, but within the next few years, we will absolutely be able to compete repeatedly for these few years.
Okay, I will give you some hope. The Rams have a 6% chance to make the playoffs.
Not impossible.
Yeah, not a 0.9% chance to win the division. Which, by the way, the 49ers are favored to win the division.
I've completely given up on winning the division, and we're going to be a wild card team at this point.
All right, I'll walk you through. If you want, you can pick another helmet, or
I think we're gonna
we can
ditch the recaps though. We've got a lot to get to here still. A couple of topics to touch on.
Let me walk you through how the Rams can possibly win the NFC West. It requires the Seahawks and 49ers to even if the Seahawks and 49ers tie, that screws over that the 49ers already beat the Seahawks. So you would need the Seahawks to probably be just better than the 49ers. So it starts with Arizona beating San Francisco in Mexico City. I don't think that has a great chance of happening. You guys can win in New Orleans. I don't think New Orleans is any good. You probably lose to Kansas City. So you're at
by the way, let me just say, what a shame it is that we're not, like, this is the first time that we're going to see the Rams and Chiefs play since the 105-point game, and it's just not going to live up to the hype. I don't see it.
That's a bummer, man.
That's a huge bummer.
That's a bummer. Then you play Seattle. I think you can beat Seattle. It's divisional game at home. And then I think you can beat Vegas. That's a Thursday. Oh my god. Okay, I don't want to do this exercise anymore, bro. Raiders at Rams on a Thursday night. I thought Falcons-Panthers was bad. At least Falcons-Panthers is a divisional matchup. They played 2 weeks earlier. That game was on cocaine.
I don't know why they made Raiders-Rams a Thursday game. Like, that's just that needs to be one of those, like, local, like, blacked out everywhere else games. Like, it's just
the Raiders were supposed to be the Rams. The Rams, a lot of people got wrong. I was 100% right on the Las Vegas Raiders. 100. I might have been so right that I was wrong. Like, I was like not in the middle on the Raiders. I didn't think they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this bad, but they're 2-7. Their wins are over a Broncos team that scored.
Our expectations for you were low, but holy fuck moment.
Yeah, exactly. And then they beat the Texans. Okay, congratulations, you beat the Texans. Josh Jacobs went nuts that game, and you beat the Denver Broncos that are scoring under 15 points.
The Las Vegas Raiders have made Jeff Saturday 1-0 as a head coach in the NFL. That's a fact. That is a true fact.
Oh man. The Colts, if you're the Colts, why are you winning? Why are you trying to win games? Although I did appreciate Jonathan Taylor finally existing for once.
I think the Colts are like, if you're a player in that mindset, like imagine being a player on like a team like the Jets last year or something. Like they are like, I'm going to relive this pain all over again. When the Jets beat the Rams in 2020, they were like 0-13. And the players were saying they don't care about like the records or the context or anything like that. They just want to win a game.
Go play. And
they're going to go play.
At a certain point, you have to go play for another contract. You're playing for your livelihood. Like,
exactly.
That's what I think sometimes us people in the media, I think we can call ourselves media people, we can miss the mark almost on those sorts of sometimes you're playing for your job, and sometimes you are comfortable in your job and you can take some liberties, right? I'll give you a weird example. Laramie Tunsil has balled out this season. He has been one of the best tackles, probably the best tackle in the AFC, and a top 5 tackle in the league as a whole. He was not good he was just not good last year. You can say he sucks, bad, whatever. He just wasn't good. He wasn't Laramie Tunsil. He wasn't the what you spend multiple first round picks for and 20 some odd million dollars a year for. You can make the argument. I obviously don't know Laramie Tunsil. I don't know his situation. I don't know the goings on in the Houston facilities. You could make a argument that maybe he checked out and say he's making his money. He's going to make his money anyways. He wants to be traded. He wants to like show something to Houston and get out of town. Okay, that maybe. I'm not saying it is a thing. Maybe. And then this year he said, you know what? The team stinks. We have some rookies on the offensive line. I'm going to be a mentor for them. I'm going to be a mentor for guys like Kenyon Green. I'm going to be a mentor for guys in the locker room. I don't know if John Mechie's in the locker room. Speedy recovery to John Mechie, by the way, but I don't know if he's like in the locker room around the team, how that works, because he's not playing this season, but he knows it's a young team with Lovie Smith at the helm as well. And you got to mentor these guys. And I think Tunsil has been almost comeback player of the year caliber this year. So there's some motivations with these players that we don't always see. And having a Colts legend, a guy that is I believe in the Ring of Honor at Lucas Oil, I think that matters somewhat to some of the players.
This kind of rings back to like sometimes there's just stuff that we don't know is going on. Like there was like I think there was like I forget who, there was a Jets player I think that celebrated an interception even though his team was getting killed, and it's like
it was against the Ravens. It was DJ Reed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was like dedicating that to his dad or something like that.
So, yeah.
Sometimes there's just hidden motivations like that we don't know 100% about. So
yeah, or even you have like
this is like I mentioned just with the Van Jefferson touchdown too. Like it was a garbage time touchdown. The Rams were getting killed, but like he needed that. He talked about how big of a boost it was for his morale. He's like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's his first touchdown back since he was injured, and he's like, okay, now I know I can still play the game. I can still catch touchdowns. So
for sure. Speaking of playing the game, one player that will be playing the game next season is Clayton Kershaw. He is returning to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Although his teammate Tyler Anderson has taken a trip a long way away to Anaheim. I don't know if you know where Anaheim is.
Very long way away, cross-country road trip, I would imagine. Probably somewhere in the in dimension 6.743, I guess, if that's a real thing.
Sure.
We'll
do alternate universes. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Tyler Anderson going to the Angels. Baseball free agency is weird because there never feels like a true start date. I don't know if it's just because I'm more of a football fan than a baseball fan at times, but there's like the league year starts, and that's like a meaningful day in the NFL calendar. And then like baseball's like la-di-da-di-da-di-da. Oh, hey, Kershaw's signing and Tyler Anderson's signing, and the Rays made 3 trades today.
Qualifying offers and whatnot.
Just fun times in baseball world. Also, guess what happened Sunday, Jack?
A lot of things happen Sunday.
That's a good point. Guess what happens at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, and sometime Qatari?
A certain football competition, and not the football that we were just talking about. We've got the World Cup on deck
I'm excited.
Under a week's time, I'm going to say by now.
My only issue is that I'll be traveling for part of this, assuming it's not snowing in Canton. Cough, cough. I'm going to Canton potentially. But these games are going to start at 5 a.m. Eastern. I feel bad for you. 2 a.m. Eastern kickoffs.
2 a.m. Pacific.
2 a.m. Pacific kickoffs. I get that it's in Qatar, but brother.
We're going to have to be like watching replays on Fox. They're going to have to air games live, and it's just like we might have already seen the result. This is like when I try to watch F1 and it's like the race has already happened, and like 90% of the races have already happened at like 6 or 5 in the morning, and it's like I might have already seen the results by then. So
that's the worst. I have to watch it live.
Yeah,
it doesn't
I
feel
feel like I have to
watching
watch it
back. So any Any predictions for the World Cup or anything overarching?
I have a take on U Stadium that says the U.S. is going to win the World Cup. I don't believe in the take. I'm not like adamantly backing. Like obviously, I'm adamantly backing. Like I want the U.S. to win the World Cup. I picked up merch last night finally, so
There you go.
there we go.
I do. Were you there because that was in a previous age of U Stadium takes that you're not
It
going to get
was.
as. Yeah, it's not going to be quite as much of a payout as you think it should be. Although what you only put $1 into it, right?
The take has it's 2,000 points to play, so $2.
Oh,
It has 4 agrees and 23 disagrees. 54,000 points is in the total pot.
So you would net around. You said 4 agrees.
4 agrees.
So you're netting like what 13K, 13.5K, something like that. Then there's a tax, so you're probably at 11K or so, which is a solid boost, but it almost feels like it should be more because you're predicting the U.S. to win a World Cup.
And it's going to be hard. Like they're going to be hard pressed a little bit to get out of their group. Like they should get out of their group, but it's going to be tough.
That Wales match is going to be fascinating.
That's going to be spicy.
That's good. I have to get up for that one. And of course, England on Black Friday, right? England, USA.
Oh boy.
That's amazing.
Boy.
I know the Qatar wasn't like planning to do that, but that's beautiful. I'm excited. I think the World Cup is always a great time of the year.
Have you been seeing the Ted Lasso ads that are being put up in like players' hometowns?
I have not.
If you check the USMNT Twitter.
Okay. I'll look after the show. Any final words for you?
I mentioned F1, so shout out to Mercedes for finally winning a race. They got the 1-2 in Brazil.
That's beautiful.
Kind of all I can think of right now.
So I have one more thing before we go. Let me make sure it is correct. Everything I'm saying is factually correct because this is not something to screw up. Okay. So I'd like to pay respects to Lavelle Davis Jr., Devin Chandler, and Deshaun Perry. There were 3 players on the University of Virginia Cavaliers football team that were shot and killed over the weekend. Just heartbreaking. That doesn't even encapsulate it. Just all of my prayers and condolences and
absolutely
feelings and are going out to them and continue to go out to the people in Virginia as a whole. Because remember, 2007, there was the Virginia Tech shooting in Blacksburg. And just, this is not what you want to, this is not news you want to see. You never want to see this. So praying very heavily for those in Charlottesville. And just, I saw that yesterday. There was a story on ESPN about it, or I was watching the Scott Van Pelt show after the football game, and just those are 3 lives that are lost. Those are 3 guys, essentially my age, 3 men that aren't going to get to live the rest of their lives. So, rest in peace.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna just end the show there. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. We usually do a comedic ending. I think we're gonna take it a little bit more seriously this time. It is very unfortunate news, like you said, that doesn't encapsulate it at all. It's terrible what happened, and just thinking of those guys, their families, and hoping that they can find peace.
Yep. I think friends, families, teammates, coaches, everyone in the area. That's just unspeakable. So rest in peace. We'll see you guys next week.